glad you trust me.
I don't want to get in trouble with that. Are we ready to go?
Yes.
We're good? Roll call's been taken upon arrival.
Yes.
We'll move on to the approval of the sanitary board minutes. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 13th and special meeting of March 11th.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Byrne, are you in
Aye.
favor? Next, is there anybody here for petitions, communications, or public hearings? Then we will go to the updates for Milford Street, Arlington Sewer, and the two phases, next two phases, please.
I'll take the first two.
Thank you.
For Milford Street upgrades, of the fourth payout for that job to be submitted today, and the final one should be next month's meeting. We have an engineering amendment for that job to present today, as well as a final adjusting change order for the contractor's quantities. Contractor should be remobilizing later this month to finish up their cleanup and the punch list items. And we'll have a warranty walkthrough scheduled with them for November or December of this year to make sure that the parts for the pavement seem to be sinking over on Sampson Street and in front of the new structure be addressed if they need it. For the Arlington Sewer Extension Project, we're still working on that one, but our primary focus has been phase 5, A and D.
Thank you.
On phase 5, A and B, A has been our focus. We should be finishing the camera investigation, I think tonight. They should be back over there and help us with some traffic control, so we can do the intersections. Survey work, they were out on the boat, I guess, finishing the survey work Tuesday. They should have picked a warmer day, quite frankly, but anyway, finish that. We're working with Army Corps, so we get that cleared, and then our facility plan has been resubmitted to DEP in draft form. Provided a couple little comments that we're addressing, but we're primarily waiting on a couple of environmental clearance correspondence from the agencies. Phase 5B is the wastewater plants, sludge building, influent pump station upgrade, are all being put together, and the rest of the separation work on the other side of the railroad, including the railroad crossing itself. That's, as you remember from last time, CSX is a real issue to try to get it across, so we don't want to do the stuff that's going to hold us up from doing the work on Main Street, Pike Street. And the other thing is some of the camera work we're subbing out. They should be getting in Fort Johnny real soon to set up some more additional traffic control. Should be in the next week or two. So that's where we are. We're making progress. We've got a meeting in front of the Infrastructure Council on Tuesday, talking about a little bit of the rearrangement where we put everything where the repaving is in the first phase. Okay, so I can get that approved down in Charleston.
Thank you. Next, we have the consideration to approve the leak adjustment policy.
To get it on the floor, I'll go ahead and approve the sewer service agreement as prepared by our attorney.
I'll second that motion.
Yes, please.
Yes, I was going to ask you to.
Motion's on the sewer service agreement. I'll start with that first, and then we'll go to the leak adjustment policy. The intent of this sewer service agreement First of all, is to comply with DEP rules. We're, as you know, about to come into a permit renewal, and they'll want to see a sewer service agreement for every one of our wholesale customers. So that was the sort of the start that Drew and I set off on to get right with the DEP. And also what this agreement does, it gives us some protection from upstream violation, if you will, for us to be able to protect our plant from discharges that we can't handle. And the way we do that is we take authority under this agreement to go upstream and monitor industrial users. It's critical that we're able to do that so that Drew and his people can protect the plant from just illicit discharges. So the second piece, a very important piece, is stormwater. Of course, not only is the nature of the flow important to us, but the volume of the flow that we receive is important to us. And how do we motivate our partners, our wholesale customers, to be diligent about keeping stormwater out of the sanitary sewer flows, including roof drains, all the things that need to be done. So this gives us some authority to at least encourage stormwater management and getting the stormwater out of our collection system. The issue we have, of course, is that we bill all of our wholesale, I think all of our wholesale customers are billed based on water meter consumption. So I think we'll need to tailor this for each of the wholesale customers, we being Drew and I, so that we understand and try to put some limits on how much flow they're sending to us. And if I would talk to Drew about this, if my concept is if we have an occasion where we think we're getting overwhelmed by stormwater from any particular discharger, then we can put a meter on that, measure it, and further encourage our partners to manage stormwater upstream. This form agreement is, again, it has to be tailored for every one of our customers because they all have different needs and different demands on us. But it is a form that's been routinely approved by both the DEP and the Public Service Commission, so I'm confident in the outline. And what we will do as we go forward is work with every one of the utilities and make sure that these are tailored appropriately for those partner utilities. These are inter-utility agreements. So, as you know, we're largely unregulated or just deregulated for a lot of the things we do because of our size. For instance, we make rates independent of the Public Service Commission. But in this case, it's an inter-utility agreement, we're still regulated. So in the end, what we're going to have to do with every one of these agreements is file them at the Public Service Commission. The timeline I have in mind now is that first I will start, Drew and I will agree on which ones we're going to address first and tailor those, bring them back to you, and then get them out to the wholesale utilities. What I'd like to do is have signed agreements when the PSC, when the DEP shows up in earnest for our permit renewal. We can deal with the Public Service Commission down the line, but I think our immediate objective, regulatory objective, is to satisfy the DEP in the permit renewal exercise we're about to encounter. So unless there are any questions, Madam Chair, this is a solid agreement. It does have some work to do to tailor. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got just a couple of questions. First one is on the flow metering device. It appears that in the wording, we think we can actually measure that flow accurately. And I've never heard of measuring sewer flow that accurately. You know, we don't have a positive displacement pump or anything like that, so is that just...
We have an expert in the room, so I'll ask our engineers to talk about measuring sewer flow. I think it's possible, but this guy,
You can measure it a couple ways, but coming from the satellites, based on how I think the interceptors all come in, I mean, you're gonna have to use similar to what we do for I&I studies, where you have a velocity meter that takes uses a transducer to kind of judge the level, so it makes it accurate. It makes it more accurate by doing it that way. It's still open channel flow, which is hard to get precisely. We mostly use those I&I meters to say during a dry day it's 20,000, and then during a rainy event it's spiked up to 70 is the range. Now exactly that number I don't know, but it tells you that you have an issue, and is that what you're trying to get at?
yes, sir. And your question is well taken. What we're struggling to find is an objective way to measure excess stormwater inflow upstream. We have our own challenge here in the city, but we don't need to get inundated by our customers. So I think it's difficult, but we have some way of at least by this contract, of attempting to measure the excess stormwater flows.
What are we doing now, Tim? I
I
mean,
don't think I don't think we're doing anything. We just take what they send us.
so
Right.
you're billing based on what they said?
And I watched Drew talk about the difference, when it's raining, we get a lot more flow than, and that's the issue, the
Do we-
ionized.
Do we still get requests for water that doesn't get, water losses and stuff? We still get that every month
Just about, yeah,
from a certain city?
yeah.
So we're to supply the measurement device
Yes, sir.
and they are to monitor it? Is that how I read this?
Yes, sir, allowing them to share the data and to monitor and share the data. But it would be our cost, where we want to go after a wholesale utility for excess stormwater flows, we have to buy the measurement device. Probably hire these guys to help us through that process.
Okay, now, Anmore, we don't have a direct connect to Anmore, we have a connection through Eastview. So how would that work? Is,
The balkanization of utility service in this county is remarkable, but that, Eastview's responsible for what they send us.
Yeah.
And they've got to go upstream with this same sort of agreement to Enmore and control what Enmore's doing to them, sending their way. But we're going to make Eastview responsible, they're the direct discharger into our system.
okay,
But your question, brings up the excellent point that because there's so many different variables amongst our wholesale customers, that this is gonna take some staff work, and we're gonna have to sort this in detail. When we're ready with a specific agreement, we'll bring it to you before we get it out to the customer.
okay.
Do
Ready
we
for the
want,
vote?
do we want to vote on it? or
Yes.
do- Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So did we do both of those in one?
He did not move on.
Okay, so we did the sewer one first, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I just want to clarify. We jumped to the second point, so we'll go back to the leak adjustment
And
policy.
very briefly on leak adjustment policy, I think Kelly attached the PSC rule on the back, which is a sewer rule 6.4.3, requires us to have this leak adjustment policy. That's part of our tariff. I'm not suggesting we need to amend the tariff just to put this in, but next time we run a tariff change, we'll include this as our leak adjustment policy. The trigger is 200% over the average consumption. Customer suffers 200% water consumption over the average. And that trigger is in the PSC rules, so we didn't make that up. And there are really two options here. First, let me say importantly, this only applies to line leaks, unknown, uncontrollable leaks. If there's a leaking toilet or a leaking faucet or a leaking shower, any of that stuff, you don't get a leak adjustment. And the motive there, the issue is the customer has to be responsible for their own water consuming facilities. We can't take that responsibility. But when the customer suffers over 200% of their historic water consumption, it either comes into the sewer or it doesn't. And those are your two options. Okay. If it doesn't come into the sewer, and by the way, those determinations are all by the treasurer, and she'll of course have staff help her, and the water board as well. This policy is written for the customer to request an adjustment. We'll staff that out and talk to the chair. We may suggest an adjustment, and the water board can tell us that there was excess consumption. Should we go to the customer and say, hey, you're qualified for a leak adjustment, and we wait for the customer to tell us? That's something I think staff needs to talk about, how that works, if you have any input, certainly.
So we'll still vote on each one of them? They'll come to us to approve like that?
Well, no, sir.
No?
With a policy, it doesn't have to be approved. We have a policy, we implement the policies you approve. Then the only reason we would come to you is with an extraordinary case that doesn't fit into the policy. So the two cases are that the water doesn't return to the sewer. We don't treat the water. That would be a service line break, the line between the water meter and the house breaks. Customer doesn't know it, underground leak, whatever the case might be. In those cases, we will bill the customer the average consumption rate that we calculate over the last 12 months. or what shorter period if the customer's not been here 12 months. But the average consumption, we bill them for that. We don't bill them for the excess water. It didn't come to the sewer.
So
Yeah.
I have a question, is there like an appeal form they're gonna fill out, or some sort of an application if they think their bill is out of line, or is it
Well-
just based on, I don't know,
We could,
Like a
that's
phone
an excellent question, Tiffany. I mean, we could do it a number of ways. We could see it ourselves, the water board can tell us we've got a high read, or we could see it ourselves as the bills come through. We could tell the customer. We could prompt the customer, hey, you're qualified for leak adjustment, even send an adjusted bill out. That's on one extreme. The other extreme is we say nothing. The customer is obliged to look and see if there's a policy, or the water board might tell them there's a policy. So it just depends on how proactive you want staff to be in the administration of the program. I don't suggest a formal application is necessary, but again, I leave that up to the paper trail and what Kim would feel comfortable with regard to audit trail on that particular building account.
I think for single households, you would just go through the water board. The water board's gonna make an adjustment before we can make an adjustment to find out where the actual leak was. But we can still do animal ordinance like we're doing now.
Couldn't do animal and water usage, because animal buys water from us and then sells it to the customers.
We don't do any adjustments for wholesale customers under this policy. This is only for retail customers.
So wholesale,
I
animal
still
purchasing
think
water from us.
there needs to be something documented so that it's consistent for everybody.
What, Tim,
In sewage, they're gonna be paying, we're gonna pay the sewage on the water, whether they enter the system or not.
Tim, what about the wholesale customers then? What about the wholesale
They
customers?
don't get these adjustments, unless you want to put them in here.
Which we have been given them, all right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then my theory, if I could continue that question, my theory is that they're responsible for the maintenance of their line. And if their lines break, why would we give them an adjustment? Or stated in the affirmative, we're trying to motivate them to take care of their stuff. But it's your choice. If you want to give the wholesale customers the same policy, we can write that back out.
Would we not want a separate policy for them versus internal
Yes.
customers?
Yeah, I think, well, you know, I know it's their responsibility, but I guess, you know, I don't know, for lack of a better word, I mean, to cooperate with the other satellites, we basically have to deal and approve our rates. You know, the last thing you want to do is get 2 or 3 satellites and the next thing you know, hold up a rate increase for a year. And I think I mean, I don't know whether the one we've been doing now, I know we've been doing it for years, and I don't know whether we need to change that, but I think what it's done is it's given us a good relationship with our wholesale customers, and I think that's one of the reasons why our rates have been, you know, so that's the way I sort of look at it, but maybe.
Okay,
yeah.
well, then what we'll do, I don't think we need a separate policy, we just need to include the wholesale customers in this policy.
I think it needs to be a separate policy.
Yeah, because I think there's different limits we use for that, isn't there? We look at so many months prior. And
Yeah, I think we
do an
use 6
average.
months, don't we, of that particular wholesale customer? So, I mean, if we want to keep that or whatever, but I think that's something, you know, you and Tim could talk out and see.
Okay,
you
so
know.
what we'll do then is this policy today will continue to not apply to wholesale customers, but this is our retail leak adjustment policy.
Right.
And then what you want is a separate wholesale leak adjustment policy, and I'll work with Kim on that. Get something together for you to look at next meeting.
Yeah, I would say for the ones in town, just let them go through the water board. And then we could get with the water board on.
Get the reading there.
Yeah, you would have to know how much they actually, if they lost or not.
Also,
This policy doesn't cover any of that, how staff to staff or water board to sanitary board this works. That's something that staff is gonna work out. I didn't think you needed to see those details, but if you wanna see those details,
the wholesale customers we have now, they never file for a refund or an adjustment on sewer if it's a service line. If it's a line supplying water to the house, they never come to us for a refund. The only time they come to us for a refund or for an adjustment is if it's a main water. They have a main breaks, and they lose thousands and tens of thousands of gallons of water. What's happening right now is they send an email down to us at Public Works. We try as much as we possibly can, send a crew out there to see where that water is going. It's not entering any manholes, it's going into a creek, it's going down to the catch basin, then we know that it didn't enter our system. That's why it's report back to the city hall. Water did not enter our system.
I think that's an important piece to that policy too, is for you guys to verify as best as you can that it either is or isn't going into, we're either treating it or not.
Well, and that's why I think there needs to be some sort of a form they fill out, so if it is denied, there's a documented reason why it was
There
denied.
is a form that they fill out.
There is a
There is a
form.
form, yes.
Is that attached to the policy, though?
It's not now, but I think it should.
I think what
Yeah.
happens is when they ask for the, don't they, we use the 6 months or whatever, and then somebody from Public Works verifies, did the water go in the sewer? And if the answer is yes, then I think that's how we present it. If that's still the way we do it.
Just a few years back, we changed our operation of public works. I required them to call us immediately, okay? Not 3 weeks after.
Right,
leave.
right.
Right.
You go out while the leak is happening, so that you can verify while the leak is in place, not.
Yeah, not 3 weeks later. Yeah, that's what they would do.
In this policy, notice the assumption, presumption, which can be of course countered by fact, is that there's a floor drain in the building that's going into the sewer.
Absolutely.
Right,
It
okay.
makes a lot of investigations a lot simpler.
Mhm.
If you've got a floor drain, we're gonna, your policy says it's the sewer discharge. So we'll leave this the way it is, not applicable to wholesale customers. We'll attach a form, the customer request form, and then Kim and I will work on drafting up a wholesale customer leak adjustment policy. So I'd ask the board to table this, and we'll bring it back with your comments.
You don't want us to
Thank you
vote
for
on that since
suggesting.
the other one's going to be separate? You don't want us to vote on that?
No, because it's missing a couple of attachments.
You've made some edits that I think are important edits to include, so we're gonna go ahead.
I move that we table it.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, we have the consideration to approve the Milford Street project contractor pay application number 4.
There you go. Application number 4, for contracting for the Milford Street area upgrades, is in the total amount of $37,076.95, and that pays out their contract, withholding 5% retainage. And that retainage will be held.
So move approval.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And next, we have the consideration to approve the Milford Street project final adjusting change order.
This will be final quantity adjustment change order for contracting for the Milford Street area upgrades project. This quantity adjustment includes 2 change order requests from the contractor as well. One is for water hauling, when they were boring from Liberty Avenue up to Temple Terrace. And the other is for some additional work they did on the lower part of Sampson Street, behind the apartment building. The proposed increase in the contract price is $33,973.35. And that brings the contract total to $780,928.35. This is still under the original contract price. Change order 1 was a reducing change order, which brought us down about $38,000.
Do you anticipate any more?
No.
I move that we approve the change order in the amount of $33,973.35.
I'll second it and ask if Tom has had a chance to look at it.
I've seen the change orders, or I knew of the change order, I did not know of the amounts.
Does it look reasonable to you?
It sounds reasonable, yes.
I'll second.
So, can I ask a question for a project like this? Like the change orders, when it's an additional drain was requested by us, the changer, but when there's something encountered like a spring that's outside of our control, how come that's charged to us?
It's an extra expense on the job that the contractor was not aware of. There's nobody
Isn't that sometimes you take that on when you take a job on? If it's not specifically requested from us, that's just part of doing business.
I think in that instance it is, there was no way for us to tell the contractor ahead of time, there would be a spring under the road. If we would have accounted for that, they would have had it in their bid price for the line item.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting to me, because a lot of times when you do construction projects, if there's inclement weather, that's not something the city has to take responsibility for, that's something the contractor has to, I don't know, it's kind of to me, it's kind of a gray area, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Finding unknowns, I think, is a risk for us also.
Well, that's
So
what I mean,
if it's passed on-
maybe split it. I don't know, to me, it's a little
Yeah.
bit of a gray area. I think it sometimes warrants a further conversation than just assuming we would take that on. So,
I think I'm not,
Tom?
Basically, if we're talking about the rain policy, that's what was instituted by the Department of Highways, and generally the contracts within the state follow those Department of Highways designation with regard to days of rain and whatnot. And so there's so many days that are included in the contract, like if there's, each month, there's so many days, and this is something that's designated generally by the Department of Highways or the contract itself, that so many days are expected in December, so many days in January, and, each month. And if it exceeds that amount, then the contractor gets paid for the additional days. But not if it does not, if it doesn't exceed that amount, then no adjustments made.
and to clarify, I don't think this one was weather related. They didn't run into it until the board that they were doing got under Milford Street, when we got on the south shoulder of it there towards the VA hospital. A whole bunch of water started coming back on that.
What was, I don't want to get too off subject here, but what was the solution to the spray? Did that route it out of there, or?
So all of that drilling fluid, it can't be discharged straight to the stream, so they had to pump it into a water hauling truck. And
That makes sense.
it's
That's
been
right,
around
that's
since.
why it's-
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Consideration to approve the Milford Street Project Thrasher invoice.
We got the amendment first, I think, don't we? Amendment 1 first.
Oh, my apologies. First is the amendment. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the Thrasher Engineering Amendment for Milford Street Project, amendment number 1.
Second?
I second.
Further discussion?
It's pretty straightforward.
It is.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried? Not that we didn't want to hear from you.
What's
I said not that we didn't want to hear from you. Consideration to approve the Milford Street Project Thrasher invoice. Can I have a motion?
I move that we approve the Milford Street Project Thrasher invoice for the amount of $6,291.25.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Next, we have the consideration to approve the next phase Thrasher invoice, I think it's 27,853.54. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And now we have the reports. Mr. Linville,
I have nothing.
Frank,
Okay.
Kim?
I'm going to do one more report for March. Just has a copy of the revenues and expenses for February. Shows we're right on track with the budget numbers from last year or this year. And the current balances in the accounts. And then we We are currently working on the budget for 24-25 that we're gonna have a work session on this afternoon, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Drew?
I don't really have much. Our worker driver back to work is doing better now. We're able to attend the 2020 MAC, started using it this week to haul sludge. We did secure it for $219,500. And then the same plan was to wait for the insurance to give us the check, and then I'll pay the remaining balance in the next, this budget coming, because I was budgeting for that truck anyways. So that's going well. File number 2 is still out of service. Hopefully we can get it back together next week. We've had some hiccups the past couple of weeks. That's kind of prevented us from being able to work on it. So we'll hit that back and be full force all over again. And that's all I have.
Thank you. John? Mr. Stranko?
Just one other thing, Madam Chair, is that Drew and I are going to be working on a sewer use ordinance update. And that's part of the city code, so that directly affects and controls how residents in the city of Clarksburg use the sewer. So we'll have that draft for you at the next meeting, I suppose.
Thank you. Dan or Anthony?
Yeah, just real quick, I met with Drew and Johnny on Tuesday. The power plant that was discussed about 5 years ago is getting traction again. At first, they were going to recycle their water and only have domestic going into put it into Summit Park PSD, but now they want to discharge their boiler water and stuff like that. So I'm working with Drew on what's acceptable as the industrial user permit. He has control of that. I've given them the developers of the power plant that requirements that they have to meet. We did discuss, because there's more developable land around the power plant area, they probably only need an 8-inch, but because of that land, I think it was our advice that they should do a 12-inch that was originally planned 5-6 years ago when this started. So, and then we've slightly changed the path of where it was designed a couple of years ago, working with Johnny on where to go with that. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention that is could be a significant customer for the board when this gets up and running.
It's gonna be one of my budget questions. It's gonna be one of my budget questions. Customers.
Anthony, anything? Tom?
I just wanted to let the board know that I am retiring as of April 1st. You know, if the board was where we've been kind of moving that to accommodate the new hire, and want to thank the board for being able to work with them. I enjoyed it. And just would like to make a comment or two, because we really, I guess one of the things that I've seen as I've worked with the city of Clarksburg is that our infrastructure is still significantly in what I would call as an engineer, probably a D mode, which means that it's nearing failure. And many places are in failure mode. And so I really feel like that as you approach the new year and the budgets, that you need to consider, that it needs to be considered to continue to monitor and increase monitoring of the lines, to go and do the inspections of the lines so you can see where failure points are at. I think what we're doing with phase 5 is good. But I think with Johnny has requested in his budget a new back truck, and also I think that we really need to get a good camera. Our camera is old, and he's working on that. But we're gonna need to have that crew out a lot, and plus we need to consider, I would guess, somewhere in the $100,000 range for contracted inspections a year, plus $100,000 plus or minus, I would guess, probably even $150,000 to do things that he isn't equipped to go through and to fix, like lining or something like that, at least that much. So that's just that's a comment and suggestion. And the other one is that, and I know that we're kind of waiting to see if we can get some dollars for MS4 and the storm drain things, but, you know, money, I think, is gonna get tight again, from the federal government, and I would think that the city still ought to consider and work towards having a, fee for service for stormwater, and start really putting close to $1 million a year in stormwater rehab.
Thank you.
And I just feel like that's important. But again, I appreciate being able to work with you, and I just have enjoyed this board. It's, as I think Dan and I were discussing yesterday, that the utility boards are really good to work with, and we really, and both have enjoyed the time that we've spent in working with utilities, so thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tom.
Ashley?
I report.
Councilmember Hyman?
I guess I'll start off with a thank you to Mr. Brown, and congratulations on your retirement. And before you arrived, I had a question about the accident. You know, I actually saw the accident, I drove past it that day. I was one of the fortunate ones to actually make it through that scene. You mentioned it was covered by insurance. How much of the insurance covered the truck?
We haven't got all the numbers back yet, we're still appraising.
Yeah.
Appraising the truck.
I had a request from a council member to send a report, and I haven't, because we haven't got all the information yet. Yeah,
Well, that's all.
perfect. Can I have a mover and seconder to adjourn before we go into our work
I make a
session?
motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Who is staying for the work session? Just the board and Kim,
I hope the staff does.
right? Not
John and Lou for
Anthony
sure.
and Dan aren't staying yet, I don't think, right?
Pardon?
Anthony and Dan.
I don't think so.
Do we want to move into the conference room, or are you guys okay here?
I think they'll get it.
Okay. Thank you. An hour?
May not be bad.
Yep.
Catherine suggested
roll call was taken upon arrival. And I guess this is something new, we don't usually do this, but this is a good thing. Here comes Cherie. It does. Drew and Johnny, do you guys maybe want to come sit in the front here so we can? Sorry. Because I know there's members of the board that just have some questions.
Yeah, you got a face for radio,
So do we want Drew to give an overview of the proposed budget? Drew and Kim? Or do you just want to ask questions?
I can ask questions.
Sure. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, without looking at the budget, just some questions and maybe, lack of a better word, concerns that I have on the budget that I'm gonna have to vote on. First of all, some easy questions. What is the pay raise proposed for the city employees? this year?
4%.
So obviously, we'll
Do the
grant
same.
to the
Yeah.
sanitary board. Okay, I know, Drew, that we had a plan in the wastewater plant where for incentive for the people to move up to a class 2, 3, and 4. Do we still have that? Okay, and can you tell me what that is? I mean, what's the increases when they move up, do you know?
It's usually like class 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's usually somewhere around $2,000 each certification.
Do you have a lot of people that are moving up though? I mean, trying to move
A
up?
lot of my guys are done, we have.
A lot of them are older.
4 class 4.
A lot of them are already up there then, right?
Yeah, we already have. I don't really have too much more, I'm gonna jump up on someone, so.
Okay. Next question I had relating to the plan again, I know that he talked about a possible customer or whatever, but as far as your industrial program for dumping, those rates, how do we determine those rates? I know you used to know that,
The
but,
haulers,
yeah, the haulers.
the
Yeah.
haulers, it was rated by, it was a couple years ago. They called around and did a study of what it is. We're still, I think Bridgeport might be slightly cheaper than we are, but they like coming to us because they don't break. They don't have to break when they come to us.
I mean, are we lower generally?
Yeah, I think our gate fees is lower, but.
See, I'm just thinking,
We should look at that.
we're raising our customers in the city, their rates. I mean, if we can do that within reason and not lose our customers.
We don't have enough haulers now to even consider.
Oh, we don't. We don't have very many haulers. Okay, you had
No,
about
we're
9 or 10
down.
when I was here.
We're down this year 42,000,
How many haulers do you have?
probably 8.
8.
2 of them lost
A
their.
lot of them don't have a lot of volume then, right?
Well, 2, our big one that was the moneymaker lost her contract at Intero, so they're not really hauling as much. And then the other one also, Burger, that was coming, they lost their contract around here. And
So what do you have in here, about 42,000? I mean, what's the revenues look like for this? Because even if you raise them 10%, that's $4,000. I mean, some of these things can offset some things we might have over time.
Where we're at is what's keeping them coming to us.
Okay.
This year we have budgeted 93.5.
I'm sorry?
This year we have budgeted 93.5.
Yeah, I took,
We're at almost 60 right now.
I took an account that John McCarty's looking at retiring. I talked to him, he's gonna do it for about a year.
So you say 93,000? So,
That's how much we budgeted for this current year.
I mean, that's something we might want to take a look at or whatever. I don't know. Because I'm saying is that some of these costs are going to continue to go up. PEIA 14%, You know, I really want to, really take care of our employees too, because I know how hard they work, so.
I'm a proponent for actually putting something like that in a policy and just say annually, the rate is gonna go up by 2.5%.
Like our rates are.
Yes,
Sure.
so that way that these haulers are, they know in advance.
I don't, see, that's the problem. I don't think we take enough haulers now that it's even gonna make a difference.
Well, 93,000's a good chunk of change.
That's what we're projecting to bring in.
Well, what is it, 60 now?
58,600 now.
I don't know, it's something, I like to take a look at.
If you, based on what we've taken in, just at the end of February, Stallions brought in $6,400 they've paid, and that's pretty much, you can count that as a zero. Pocahontas doesn't come here anymore. So you have M&M, McCarty's looking at retiring, so you're gonna lose 20,000 there. So that leaves you a little ones.
And then why would we increase it to 93 from 60?
Well, these are the ones that are still be there, that's why I took into account who's coming.
I think we're at 93, but I think that's actually lowered from this year, correct?
93 is actually this year.
Oh, okay.
Proposed 80 for next year.
Next
Also,
year.
you dropped it.
I dropped
Mhm.
it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I
I want to
misunderstood.
apologize because I do think even if we leave the budget, things like that we're charging for, people have to pay for, it does need to be put in a policy that there isn't, everything else goes up. Why aren't,
Well, it's in the policy.
Why aren't our fees going up?
Treatment policy that it can go up.
Okay,
But you don't want to outprice yourself in the area when you're competing with Fairmont, Buchanan, Bridgeport. And it's
but
not
as long as we're lower, I
Yeah.
mean, you'd be,
If we go up any, we're going to be higher.
the only way going lower we'd lose customers if they're closer to the other plants. But if they're near our plant, they're not gonna go to Fairmont or
Most of
Buchanan.
them are around here, they go to Bridgeport too, so they're split.
should we take a look around at everybody's rates again since?
I would like to see us do that.
And I just did that, yeah, I just did one of those, looked at all of them on tariff.
Okay,
That was around when we were doing the rate increases, and we're still right.
we'll get that information to the committee.
Okay, next question, I think it came up, I think Kim mentioned it. And I really want to zero in on Johnny's department, because I know, the 30-some years I was here, the sanitary board always was dealing with equipment replacement, trucks were old, we had problem with cameras or whatever. And I think we really need to, in my opinion, we really need to make a priority of capital outlay, even if it's at the expense of something else that we can give up. But I guess my question to you, Johnny, is what is the condition of our equipment and what do you see as an immediate need in the next fiscal year?
We've got a backup coming, so it's ordered, it's because of the supply chain issues, it should be here.
Is it in this year's budget?
Includes the last year.
Okay.
When we carry over, it's part of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
It's on its way. Like I said, we need to replace our video.
Or what?
Our video camera, our
Video
drop
cam-
camera, that needs to be.
How old is the video camera?
It's bought nine.
I know it's
That's
old.
my issue with it. Got hardly parts for it, and we said,
I can't believe it's
parts,
not.
and at this point, it's completely obsolete. There's nothing you can get for it anymore. So next time it goes down, it's down.
And have you requested that in the budget?
I've got some money in the budget for this year. I don't think it's gonna be enough to cover now what we're gonna need. So what I'd like to do is, if I can't pull that off, now I'm looking right now what I've got left to see if I can move some money around to come up with funding. If not, I'd like to estimate the money we have for that camera budget.
How much do you have and how much do you need?
There's $50,000 budget for components to repair the camera that I cannot get. It's
Okay,
also-
so that 50,000 would go towards a new one, correct?
It goes in there.
And what does a new one cost?
We're looking, we're gonna try to reuse our old container, our old trailer, we'll try to reuse all that stuff, we'll just strip that out and then put all the new components inside the existing trailer. So we're probably looking at probably 125 to 150,000. Wow. That's pretty simple payment, it's not.
When you say escrow the money, you're saying not buy it this fiscal year and set aside money next year?
Pull enough money out of what's left in the budget, yes. It's pushed, we're almost in the end of fiscal year anyway. push that into the next year's budget again.
So we have no money in R&R for anything like this, correct? No? Okay. Okay,
Would
now
the
we,
committee be all right if, I talked to look for some grants too for that? Or I just don't want to overstep onto what Thrasher does.
You're gonna have to give it Thrasher, because a lot of stuff that the grant writer can apply for, we've already applied for the upgrade, and you don't wanna cancel it out.
In addition to that,
Talk to Thrasher.
in the next year's
Okay.
budget, I'm gonna be looking for probably a medium-sized dump lift versus.
yeah, so you're looking at one truck next year?
Looking at a couple of trucks.
Couple trucks?
Yeah, looking for a crew truck, because our crew trucks have been replaced, our trucks are 05, 07.
How about, in the city budget, do you have any new trucks?
I've got trucks now, I've got a crew truck for this year.
So if you get the truck from the city and the ones that you're proposing, would that put you in good shape?
That'll give you 2 good crew trucks. Like I said, we'll need a large dump, medium-sized.
Sounds like we gotta focus on that camera somehow, but that's something.
Definitely gonna need that.
I'm gonna speak with Thrasher about what they've applied for and, see if that's something that won't impact what they've already
Now,
applied.
now, as far as what Tom said, and that was one of my other questions was, inspecting these lines for these breaks and so on and so forth. Do we have any such number that Tom's talked about in our budget for inspection of sewer lines?
No,
No.
no.
I think we do for this year, we had, Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had money in there for inspection this year, but we did not have plan for repairs or cleaning.
Not have what?
We did not have any extra dollars in there that was for the repairs or cleaning that we found while we're doing that. Because sometimes you have to get them in there with a cutter or something else, if it's bigger than what Johnny can handle, because, his equipment is for most work that we do, but it's not for all. And so I think that we need to look at that.
Do we have any money in this proposed budget for lines? Do we have anything in here for cleaning the lines, inspecting lines?
There's money in there, we asked if we have money, there is money in there for cleaning lines.
Right, that's what I'm looking for.
Well, I think you're gonna have the money for the camera in it, because
We don't pull that money.
if he has 50,000 over, I still have on his budget 200,000 for a dump truck. We already have the dump truck. I just need the remaining amount to pay it off. So there's still,
So we could do a budget revision.
yeah, because I'm looking at your 219,000, if we get between 150 and 175 for that truck. Come up with that.
Will we bid the camera, Johnny? Will we bid it? Bid the
Yeah, we'll
camera?
have to,
I mean, is it something that, that we could probably put together maybe if we're gonna use that money, maybe we can put together this spring and have something maybe this summer
try
to get it done.
So you're looking at, I would say at least 100 grand that we're saving on that dump truck now.
If there is a grant we can find, it will take longer probably than this summer
Yeah,
to
if it's a
get
grant,
it.
we'll wait as long as we need to,
Okay.
absolutely. It's
I
free
mean, if he
money.
has the 50 and I have, then there's that 100 there's the camera.
Well, there's a new camera on page 6 of 8.
Right,
It's only $10,000.
yeah, I'm not sure what that's for. Any idea?
Were you on page 6 of 8?
It's a
Yeah.
push camera?
4th line down from the top.
Oh, okay, so that's a different.
That's a different
You
camera?
still need a push camera.
we had a push camera, we've got a couple of those that were.
Okay, I got you.
I think, the next question was, and I think I already asked you, Drew, about your staffing. Johnny, I see where they're hiring some employees in Public Works. How does the sewer department, how does it stand right now, personnel wise?
There's one opening in the sewer department, there's one opening in the general, actually, 2 openings in the general fund, following the 2 departments, the other 2.
So you got 3 total? You got 3 total? Now, is that vacant position in this budget?
Yes.
Yeah,
It is?
Yeah, they're all, they're just retired.
What about the 2 for the city? Are they in the budget too?
Yes.
Okay, so that's gonna put you back to the staff that you need?
In fact, yeah, we've been a while, we've never managed to get back to.
Yeah, I know, we've been behind for a while.
2 guys right now, will be coming off of probation, and we just hired them 3 months ago, they'll be coming off probation the 1st of April.
So if you get this person, and of course the other 2 will go in the city, where does that put us to where we used to be when we were fully staffed?
We'll be good for now on the sanitary board right now, but as we begin to take on these satellites, we begin to take on Arlington, we begin to take on Glens Falls, we begin to take board and all that, we start taking these satellites in, you definitely have to hire
You don't have to have,
additional
yeah,
employees.
you don't have to have a crew just to go out to run.
Yeah, we'll have to have additional employees.
So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the revenues from Arlington, and we're gonna have to set aside something to hire an additional staff person. Now, Arlington's it's not coming online till when, the next 25, 26?
Probably 25 to 27, something.
Okay, so it's several years out then.
So there's some time for planning then.
The Army Corps of Engineers is not fast, so it's gonna be a while.
Now, what about your dog, all that down there? That's also different.
It's under the second phase of
Yeah.
that project.
Yeah, I just think, like I said, of course, I've had a big lapse, and I know that we tried to do the best we could when I was here, and I think the best thing happened to us, we was able to get that 5-year phase sewer rate increase, and now you've done that again. And I think Bridgeport and Clarksburg were the first two cities in the state that were able to get the PSC to agree to that. And I think, and what it does, the customer doesn't see some massive jump in their sewer bills all at one time, it's a little bit over time, so. But, I mean, that's the only questions I have. I can take this budget home, whatever, and if I have any other questions, I can, but those were my main questions. I'm see if I had any others. The lines,
Yeah,
the
this
equipment.
year I suggested we're gonna put 25,000 back, start an escrow account. Also put 25,000
Yeah,
budget every year.
We really need to get into escrow accounts.
Yeah, the last question is, how are we going to stand on the R&R fund? As far as how much we putting in and what do we have now?
We've been putting in,
I'm looking at the budget for the R&R. You had, the budget was, where's it at here? Contribution was, $356,000 to go in. Okay, now will you put all that in? Will you be able to put all that in by the end of June?
yeah, probably more.
Okay, so then where would that leave us though with the commitments we have? I mean, will our carryover, will our unencumbered balance, would be good?
It will be good. In the revenue fund, where that.
No, R&R.
Yes. I don't know exactly yet. Hopefully I'll have that number for you soon, or an estimate.
So what do we have out there that we're taking out of R&R that's not, that we've committed to? I mean, is any of those emergency projects, Tom, are coming out of R&R?
The one project we still have that's hanging out there, I think, is the bus garage. I don't think we've done that or contracted that yet.
So we've not spent any money on the bus garage yet?
No, we have not.
And you're not sure what that's gonna cost?
We know, we approved, the sanitary board approved the $20-some thousand, the last, I think it was 28 or 29,000, I didn't bring that with me, but the
Okay.
last meeting.
No.
But there's liable to be another 40,000 in my mind at least.
We're not putting you on the spot. What do you think the maximum cost will come in?
Frank, that's really hard to tell.
Even with the complete project with the lining and all, once we put repairs in there, I said we're going to be 80 to 100,000.
80 to 100,000?
Because right now, we did camera work, so we cannot get cameras up to the line. We have flags at this point, okay, that we need to be addressing, okay? Once we get to that collapse area, then we continue to run the camera the rest of the way on this line. We know that there's another collapse on the other end of the line, about 20 feet in from there. What's between those two collapses, we cannot see.
Now, this is an emergency situation, isn't it, or not?
To me it is, it's just that we can't seem to get there.
So we really need to find out about that collapsed line before we can do anything.
We need to get that hole cut in that floor, get out of that, do that repair.
Do you have a schedule with the contractor yet, John? Okay. We've been trying to get a schedule with them.
It's not.
Well, I guess, to close, my main concern is that we build up this R&R fund, and that we really nail down the cost that we have, and that we get the equipment that we need. I guess with your phase, you're gonna be in good shape with the plan as far as I know, right? Anything that.
Yeah, a lot of my capital assets, I leave for the upgrade. the big
Upgrade,
ones.
right.
So I just try to replace trucks and cars and leave permission, communications stuff, but most of the upgrade stuff, I try to put in with the upgrade.
So the only comment that I'll have is, to close out, is, I want to commend these two guys here, and what a great job they do. I think the sanitary board is very well run, and I think you guys do a good job. You know, a lot of times you have obstacles, like you said, that they're hard to overcome. But I think that our goal as a board, need to, you know, is provide these people, provide them with what they need and be able to take care of emergencies as they come up. Because, you know, if you have a massive emergency and you don't have money escrowed and encumbered, that's what, you know, one of the main reasons why the rainy day fund is to try to keep it for emergencies. But we, you know, we do use it for capital, and I don't have a problem with that, so.
I agree, and I also agree that when we get that new camera, we need to be actively cameraing the lines to
Right.
try to get ahead of whatever we possibly can.
Yeah, I think if we get it, we need to use it 5 days a week if we can, so.
And we also have the new line items in the budget this year, we put IT, we've just combined our ITs in one budget.
Yeah, as we do more inspections, we're gonna find more problems. So we need some more R&R money for those problems too.
Yeah, as I said, we don't know whether these things come up, but we need to be,
Quite honestly, there's been a significant increase in materials. Pipe,
Right.
things, that kind of stuff is greatly
Yeah.
increasing in price in the last few years.
As Tom said, our system's getting older and older, and so there's gonna be more of those.
And honestly, we're finding, it's getting to the point where we can more.
how about our utilities, how about our gas for the plant? Is it holding steady?
Gas is, I mean, it's went up 4 times this year, I think they've raised the rates, but it's holding steady. Electric's still around 180, 200,000.
So do we allow low increase in gas?
Increase in gas, maybe went from 35, I think it's 42,000 this year.
Okay.
But we're getting a new boiler system, so I'm kind of hoping that'll help in the upgrade. That's really the only time we use gas.
Can we, for future projections, these areas that might come into the sewer department, can we get a list of those? What we think their projected revenues are gonna be once they come in, and what we think the projected staff costs are gonna be when they're here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Thrasher's not here, but, you know, I know they talked about Arlington, you know, what we used to do when we thought somebody was coming in, like, project how many customers would come in, what the average rate would be, okay, and this would be the estimated revenues from Arlington, okay? Whatever that number is, and then, what do we have to do to provide maintenance to Arlington?
Yes.
And just have come up with a budget for Arlington and then incorporate that into the whole budget.
I think that's really important information to have.
Yes.
When those satellites come in, we're gonna pick up several of those
Yeah.
stations as well.
Well,
Pump stations are expensive to maintain.
Guaranteed.
and my question is there debt that's coming along with those?
I think if we end up taking on a couple of satellites, I think there was talk in somehow working with the debt.
Okay, so how does that work? Is that debt, does it stay to those customers and it's billed separately, or does it spread over?
That was mentioned on several different occasions. They're trying to work out so that the debt stays to that.
To those
I
users?
think we'd have to check with bond counsel to see what our existing bond ordinances and what the covenants are, you know, and see what we can do with that debt, how it would come in and how it would be
The
handled.
bad thing about taking on those satellites is you only have a certain amount of time to get them back in compliance. So we would have to have those lift stations fixed.
Tom, do we have to take these satellites in under the PS, I mean, if they're another service? or
There is a law out there now that can force you to take in the satellites.
Force us to take them
It hasn't
in?
been utilized very much, I think only once
It's
or
good to
twice
hear.
in the
Well,
state.
my concern is if their infrastructure is not compliant and we have to make it compliant, that's not an existing debt. So if we have to pay for that, does that come out of those users because we're making them compliant, or is that spread over
It'll be
everybody?
spread over everybody, probably.
That's concerning.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Yes.
Takes it over.
Can I, just
That's a
a couple
problem.
other comments if I could? One, I think that as you really get into doing the sewer investigations with the new equipment, Johnny does everything he can to make do with what he's got. He's just been trained that way. But he really needs a couple more people. If we're gonna keep that out there all day, every day,
Yeah.
5 days a week, he needs 2 more people to be able to run that, camera, you know, to that extent. And it really means that to be able to do that. So that's just one comment.
You know what would be good to know is, and finance could calculate that, is what is the annual cost of a laborer? Base salary, insurance, retirement, whatever, and let's get that number, whatever that number is, 50,000 or whatever, then we'll have that number that we know it's in our pocket, that if we have to do something, in other words, rather than trying to find out how much it's gonna cost us, be ready to deal with it at the time.
Right.
An odd
So I'm
question.
hearing two more people for your,
Well, I have a question too, because I get a lot of inquiries from universities about internships. Is something like that possible to have students do, or one employee and a student? Because if you can get someone to do a 3-month internship, you can get some good experience as the student and some good work done for the city. So I think that might be an option to look into, although it's a $150,000 camera. I don't know.
Maybe, well, you can put experienced personnel and have inexperienced personnel to do traffic control
Right.
or do your.
Yeah, I think,
possible work.
and I think it's really good for kids to
He
get,
has to know what he's doing, or you can lose a piece of equipment pretty quick out there.
you can, but it's also a good way to identify potential employees too, if you're doing internship programs.
I mean, years ago, Frank will test this, we used to hire public person, temporary permanent. People came in, temporary permanent basis. Came in, hired temporary, you didn't get all that, when you came in, you were temporary permanent for a certain period of time, and there's another people you got like permanent.
You know, maybe somebody, an accounting internship to help finance, somebody that's an accounting student, or, you know what
I
I
agree.
mean? Yeah.
I also think we need to ask Tim Stranko, if we are under legislation forced to take in these other entities, can we put a policy or ordinance place that forces them to have their equipment up to standard before we take it in?
Well,
They can't, that's the reason why.
Yeah, but they can go
That's why-
take out the debt, they can fix it, and we'll take on the debt, which is fine, as long as there's a mechanism in place that their users pay for
They
it.
can't take on the debt, that's why they're told, because they can't.
The current satellites that are gonna take it now, that Arlington and those areas, they're gonna put in whole new infrastructure. It'll be all new infrastructure when we take it over. It's not. it's
Even
just-
their lift stations, everything will be up to a compliant level?
Right now.
Okay, so that's
The
not,
station is ours, they're gonna tie into, but through Thrashing, we had those conversations, Tom and I, we required that lift station to be upgraded to be able to handle the influx of flow under the other laws. We're not paying for that, they're looking at it. Same with, Sun Valley PS, they're going to come in through Davidson and Road.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about Sun Valley.
Yeah, they're wanting now to pick up the rest backside of Davidson.
How many customers, wasn't there like 70 customers there or something, or?
On Davidson and Road? Yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to be, they're paying for the upgrade of the armory.
So they're.
What's the condition of their infrastructure? Is it pretty bad, that we
Sun
know?
Valley, it's not too bad.
I didn't think Sun Valley was that bad.
They're gonna do an increase, they're gonna bring more flow into the Armory lift station out there, which is our main lift station. And through that, when Thrashing brought that in, same thing, what happens, our lift station needs upgrade. So they're gonna pay for their upgrade on that lift station. So we're always trying to work.
Sun Valley would pay, Sun Valley's gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
Sun Valley will pay for that?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
no, that's a great situation.
That's what she's, Tiffany's.
Arlington's updating.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
is it just one lift station that needs upgraded, or will it be every,
Well, for Sun Valley PSD company, it would just be.
The Armory,
Armory
right?
lift station. And for.
What's the status of Sun Valley coming in? Do you
I
know?
don't know for sure where they're at with that.
I know that Thrasher had done some, Tom, are you aware of where Sun Valley is?
They're working on it. We had talked to them, Johnny and I have been backwards and forwards in discussion with them. It's been under design for about a year now, or maybe a year and a half. And I haven't heard anything recently.
Yeah, that might be something we may want to check with Thrasher on maybe at the next meeting, get a report on Sun Valley.
I think we should, and I also think we had that meeting earlier in the year
When they do Gore and Dawn, they do that
with
section down
the,
there.
that area just outside of Clarksburg. Where does that one stand?
They do, but they're gonna tie
It was
into
east,
the-
Eastview,
Mhm.
that was,
They're the ones.
that was
that
the
have
Harris County
pressure
Pressure.
run.
Oh, so are we done with that now?
Those lift stations.
No, that's,
Up to us.
they're still hard fighting, that's Eastview and Ward, and it's something hard they were trying to get, come in.
That's something.
Okay.
But in that deal, I think they were discussing where Harrison, the county commission was gonna try to help on that debt, to get it over.
Kim's, our satellite revenues, I mean, are they pretty much, I mean, as far as next year's budget, the same, they've gone up? or-
Well, that's one thing I was gonna tell you, we didn't put that increase in the budget yet, so it's not in the number
Now,
yet.
it's in the tariff though, correct?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
so we'll be charging that. So
We'll get into trouble with sanitary satellites, and we get forced to take Eastview, if we're forced to take.
Eastview's always the one that everybody wants to stay
Existing
with.
systems that are already.
So how, is it,
That's where we get into the cost.
is it because they require a lot of upgrades to get them where they should be?
It's just, and we're not too bad, everyone has a pretty good system in place.
Some parks not.
Yeah, neither is-
Summit Park's not, Eastview is not,
But
Ammore's
one
okay.
location, Some Park, we discussed the other day, we may be
Yeah, well,
calling them and getting rid of it.
'Cause-
South Park has 4 stations, yeah, 4. So, but one of them, when this power plant comes in, if this power plant comes in, the way we reroute the line, that lift station can be gravity fed into this line coming from the power plant. And then we can eliminate, it's not our lift station, but we can eliminate that lift station for South Park. And then we do have to take on that system, that's one less lift station.
Right.
But how's the three of them wanting to come in, how's the county commission tied into the sanitary board? I mean, they want us to take them, is that basically
Yes.
it?
They
Oh,
want
okay.
us to take Eastview, the county commission wants us to take Eastview big time, but Eastview, no.
I'm sure they did,
Eastview and Some Park,
Yeah.
I'm sure they couldn't wait to get rid of those two.
Hey, Frank, should we have the price or the cost of a laborer is about 70,000?
70, it's a lot more, it's unbelievable, 70,000 for a labor.
Mhm.
And
And once we get back to full staff, when we can speak out something, we get back to full staff, all my top positions are full, so it's, the truck drivers, the skill, equipment operators, those guys.
Yeah, do you have enough in the rank, I call them the ranks, in the classifications you need?
Yeah, it's the lower, the labels is what we're gonna get. You start bringing more people in. they'll come
What
in.
about your do you need more CDLs or?
Right now, I've got to go right now, same training for CDLs, so the guys who are in the mid-rank areas, classifications, in order for those guys to bid up, they have to get that CDL, so that's an incentive for them.
Them to do it.
Try to get the license, and then that way they can bid up into those jobs, and get into the higher, better paying jobs.
That's all I have.
Do you keep an inventory, John, of pipe, different size pipes?
Absolutely.
And that's replaced as it's used?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we do, inventory, we do, an audit in July, July, we do an audit. But yes, we keep pipe, firm goes, fittings, it's all federal.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
I,
almost have that, we don't have an
Yeah.
option there to not have pipe on. When COVID hit, you could only get pipe, it was rough.
I would like to see something laid out in a spreadsheet of the other districts that exist, where their infrastructure is. Do we think we're gonna take them in, and when we think that would actually happen? Not, even if it doesn't, I would still like to see that, because I don't think our existing users, for the ones that need significant upgrades, are gonna be okay with paying for that.
And Arlington, all that, and all that, that'll all be.
See, I thought that at one time that Sun Valley, that we actually thought that somehow we did some kind of study that Sun Valley, the revenues that we would get from Sun Valley, we were able to absorb and actually would help our revenues, is what I was trying. But I just Sun Valley, now I know the other two, you can forget the other two.
Sun Valley is on.
And see, Sun Valley, aren't they, I mean, we could take them in by themselves, couldn't we? Sun Valley?
But we're not going to, are we? I mean, they're not asking us to take Sun Valley on.
No, none of them was asking, that was Harrison County.
Okay.
It's kind of commission, trying to
Yeah.
get some part in these few, they wanted to.
They were getting ahead of the game. 'cause
They wanna get rid of all of them, they
Yeah.
want us to take them all,
Yeah.
what they want.
But what I don't wanna happen is when all of a sudden they can't pay their debt, that we're in the position where we have to do it and we don't have a plan in place.
This doesn't really, but I remember when Keith actually put it together for the Bridgeport, is when South Hills, their septic systems failed, and we had to put a sewer system into it. There was a tariff on their line on that particular subdivision and those customers, until that additional cost was paid for. So somehow I know Keith did that, Frank knows Keith, so. that-
The area that I live in, of course, back in, it had no sewer system at all. And what they did was, they bid the sewer system, they had a legal thing in place, and they made all the property owners take 5 coupons, and they had to pay an amount every year. They had their share based on the footage of their house, and that's how they paid that's the way the city agreed to take them in, because the actual individual people that lived there paid for the sewer.
We have situations like that. We have Shadow Hills up there on 19.
Yeah, Shadow Hills, yes,
They're septic right now.
yeah.
And we do have a line right across the opposite side of the road. We do have a line.
Well, then we'll have that problem too. If you go into Eastview, who's responsible for telling those people they have to hook it to the line?
That's what they're doing in
And
that fort
where
right
where they gonna get the
now.
money to pay for it? I mean,
With the lines there, they're required to hook it.
yeah.
And then there'll be lift stations that we build, because a lot of them can't find because of topography.
Yeah, my mom doesn't quiet down in there
Area
time.
down the road, trying to
It's
get
Jason.
some, grant money. If you go to Eastview, and trying to get
That's a good deal, dude.
that,
That's what,
But they let everybody pay over 5 years, 3%, 2% interest or something.
it's like $100 you have to
Just,
pay.
a
Then
couple others suggested.
So at our next meeting, could we see this with the actual rates from the increase too, what it will be?
I'm sorry, Tiffany, what did you say?
This doesn't actually show with the increase, right? So at our next meeting, could we get an updated one showing the increase and then?
Just put it, if you could put it in our packet.
Yeah.
And we could look at it. And then
That'd
we
be
could
lovely.
always bring it up under new business or
That would
something.
be
We don't
good.
have to have a work session.
Yeah, if everyone's all right with that.
I mean, I think this has been very beneficial to me, and I think it's long overdue. Because I've been out of it for so long,
Mhm.
Can I make a couple other comments with regard to some things that have been said, I guess? One of the things we had a lot of success in Bridgeport with is to actually escrow vehicles and to escrow equipment. So once we bought a piece of equipment, we would then start escrowing dollars to replace that equipment. And so like right now, Johnny has 2005, 2000 to 2010 primarily trucks. We'd escrow equipment and his hose are getting older. So you start escrowing equipment dollars after you buy them, if you can, and just start to build up dollars to be able to pay for each piece of equipment as it's needed. And we had a lot of success with doing that, but we also had an influx of some revenues too. And we did we were the first ones that did the 5-year increase, and you followed right after that, I believe, Frank. And we were the first 2 that did that.
And everybody said we couldn't do it, and we did it, didn't
We
we?
did it. But the other thing is, and we have to be a little bit careful about this, Johnny alluded to it in his conversation, and so did Drew. Prices have gone up dramatically, more than what we'd estimated when we did the 5-year program that we're on right now. So I think that you're gonna get to a point where the break even is not break even anymore. That we may have to do an increase in 4 years instead of 5 years, because we're gonna start to get to the point, we may start to get to the point that we're not, ahead of the game and not able to have that money.
Well, see, I was like asking Johnny, I mean, I know we have to walk before we run, but we don't want to stand still. That's the thing. That's at least, 2-3 years from now, if we're sitting here, maybe we're looking at a different
I think the
situation.
good thing is Johnny and I, we actually pay attention to each other's budgets. So if he starts upticking on spending, I kind of set back, and then he does the same if I have to uptick. And I think we do well, working well together with the budget.
It's all coming from the same money.
Well, I think the directors, they do a good job of trying to future forecast what
Right.
we need instead
That's what
of
we need.
everything being an old,
That's what we've done.
oh no,
We've cut
oh
some-
no.
We've cut out a lot of line items and provided.
It sounded to me like this cam was critical. I mean,
Yes.
absolutely critical.
I'm gonna
Just-
get on looking for the grants for that right away.
We don't have time to get a grant, I don't think.
I'm still gonna look for one because
I
that's
appreciate
still,
that.
that's taxpayer dollars, it's just from a different level of government, and I hate to give those out.
Yeah, the other
Even if it
thing-
means getting a second camera.
the other thing too is, and like I said, I'm the last guy to want to go in debt, but if you can get a good rate on financing, you can lease, you could get a
Well, it's a
lease.
long-term asset, so
And
that
then,
makes sense.
when you get the money, you could just pay it off.
Yeah.
Sort of like what you're doing with the truck.
Like our boat truck.
Yeah.
Which I think that would be good.
But see, I think what we need to do though is if we do lease purchase financing, we need to contact every bank in Harrison County. Okay, because right now they're looking for deals, and you get you get a better interest rate than if you just, I know that, we at least contacted 7 or 8 lenders to see what we could get.
We should probably have a list that we send out for that kind of stuff. That's a good suggestion. Is there any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. No, these are awesome work sessions. It's budget vote tonight.